November 12, 1946, 11:37 p.m. Bumpy Johnson walks out of Small's Paradise, a jazz club on 7th Avenue and 135th Street, into the cold Harlem night. He's 51 years old, and he's just spent 3 hours listening to Billie Holiday rehearse for her upcoming show while conducting business in the back booths. 2 men walk with him: Illinois Gordon, his oldest friend and advisor, and a younger bodyguard named Tommy Shortchange Williams. The 3 of them head north on Lenox Avenue, toward where Bumpy's car is parked 4 blocks away. They never make it to the car. At the corner of Lenox and 138th, 3 figures emerge from the shadows. It happens so fast that even Bumpy, a man who survived 4 decades in the criminal underworld, barely has time to register the threat. The first attacker comes from the left. Bumpy sees the glint of steel, a knife, 8-inch blade, moving toward his ribs with professional precision. He twists. The blade catches his coat instead of flesh, tearing through wool and missing his body by inches. Illinois Gordon tackles the second attacker. They crash into a storefront window, glass exploding across the sidewalk. Tommy Williams pulls his gun, but the third attacker is already on him. Another knife, this one finding its target. Tommy screams, stumbling backward, blood spreading across his shirt. Bumpy doesn't have time to help. The first attacker is coming at him again, and this time Bumpy can see his face in the streetlight. Young, white, Italian features, professional stance. This isn't some street punk looking for a score. This is a professional hitman. And Bumpy realizes, in that split second of clarity that comes during life-or-death moments, exactly what's happening. Someone sent assassins to kill him. And based on the precision of the attack, based on the coordination, based on the fact that there are 3 of them targeting 3 specific people, this came from someone with resources and planning. This came from organized crime. This came from the families. The attacker lunges again. Bumpy, despite his age, moves with the speed of someone who's been in hundreds of street fights. He sidesteps, grabs the man's wrist, and uses his own momentum to slam him face first into a brick wall. The hitman drops, unconscious or dead. Bumpy doesn't stop to check. Illinois has subdued his attacker, a knee on the man's back, arms twisted at an angle that makes it clear he's not getting up without help. But Tommy Williams is down, bleeding heavily, and the third attacker is running, disappearing into an alley before anyone can stop him. Sirens wail in the distance. Someone heard the commotion and called the police. Bumpy makes a split-second decision. Illinois, leave him. We get Tommy to a hospital. Now, they half-drag Tommy to Bumpy's car, leaving 2 unconscious attackers and a scene that will have the NYPD asking questions all night. By the time they reach Harlem Hospital at 11:53 p.m., Tommy Williams has lost enough blood that the nurses aren't sure he'll make it. But he's alive. For now. And here's what nobody knows yet. What won't become clear until the investigation unfolds over the next 72 hours. One of those attackers left behind wasn't just any hitman. He was carrying identification that linked him directly to the Luciano crime family. And when he regains consciousness in police custody, he's going to tell a story that will shake New York's criminal underworld to its foundation. Because this wasn't a random hit. This wasn't a territorial dispute or a street-level conflict. This was Lucky Luciano, the most powerful mob boss in America, currently in exile in Italy after being deported by the U.S. government, sending a message. And that message was clear: kill Bumpy Johnson. But here's the question that will drive everything that follows. Why? Why would Luciano, the man who'd worked with Bumpy since 1935, who'd established a peaceful and profitable arrangement with him, who'd personally blessed Bumpy's independence in Harlem, why would he suddenly order his execution? The answer involves betrayal, money, and a secret that could destroy the carefully balanced power structure of organized crime in New York. And it starts 3 months earlier, in a place nobody expected. August 1946. 3 months before the assassination attempt. To understand what led to that night on Lenox Avenue, you need to understand what was happening to Lucky Luciano. In February 1946, Luciano had been deported to Italy after serving 9 years in prison on compulsory prostitution charges. It was a deal brokered by the U.S. government. He'd helped with naval intelligence during World War II, providing contacts and information that assisted the Allied invasion of Sicily, and in exchange, he got his sentence commuted. But the commutation came with a condition: permanent exile from the United States. For most criminals, this would have ended their career. But Lucky Luciano wasn't most criminals. From his base in Naples, Italy, he continued running his American operations through intermediaries and carefully structured communications. His empire, built on gambling, loan sharking, labor racketeering, and increasingly heroin trafficking, continued generating millions annually. But there was a problem. Distance creates opportunity for betrayal. And in the criminal underworld, where loyalty is measured in profit and survival, physical absence is a death sentence to authority. By August 1946, Luciano's lieutenants in New York were beginning to make moves without his explicit approval. Territory was being redistributed. Tribute payments were being adjusted. New partnerships were forming that excluded or minimized Luciano's cut. One of those partnerships involved Frank Costello, Luciano's former underboss who now effectively controlled the family's day-to-day operations in New York. Costello was making a power play, not a violent coup, but something more subtle. He was positioning himself as the real boss while Luciano rotted in exile, unable to enforce his will directly. And part of Costello's strategy involved Harlem. Specifically, he wanted to renegotiate the arrangement with BumpyJohnson. See, Bumpy's deal with Luciano had been extraordinarily favorable to Bumpy. He paid roughly 15 to 20% of his numbers operations' gross profits as tribute, significantly less than what most operators paid to the families. In exchange, he maintained complete independence and operational control. It was a good deal for both sides when Luciano was in New York, directly managing relationships and ensuring compliance. But with Luciano in Italy, Costello saw an opportunity to squeeze more money out of Harlem. The neighborhood's numbers racket was generating an estimated $200,000 weekly by 1946. Bumpy was paying roughly $35,000 in tribute. Costello wanted that double. In August 1946, Costello sent an emissary to meet with Bumpy, a man named Vinny Morrow, one of Costello's most trusted captains. The meeting took place at the Rhythm Club. Bumpy, Illinois Gordon, and Eddie Schoolboy Martin on one side, Vinny Morrow and 2 associates on the other. According to multiple accounts from people who were there, the conversation went like this. Vinny, Bumpy, you know the situation. Charlie's in Italy. Things are changing. Frank thinks it's time to revisit the financial arrangements. Bumpy, the arrangements were made with Charlie Lucky. They still stand until Charlie tells me otherwise. Vinny, Charlie's not here. Frank is. And Frank's the one keeping you protected from the other families who think Harlem should be divided up and properly managed. Bumpy, properly managed? I've been managing Harlem for over a decade. No wars. No federal heat. Steady profits. What exactly needs to be improved? Vinny, the tribute percentage. We're looking at 40%. Double what you're paying now. The room went silent. Eddie Schoolboy Martin would later recall that Illinois Gordon's hand moved toward his jacket, not reaching for a weapon, but the gesture was there. Bumpy's response was calm but final. No. Just that. No explanation. No negotiation. Just no. Vinny tried different approaches. Appeals to changing times, thinly veiled threats about what the other families might do without Costello's protection, suggestions that Bumpy was being unreasonable. Bumpy repeated, no. My deal is with Lucky Luciano. When Lucky Luciano tells me personally that he wants to change our arrangement, we'll discuss it. Until then, I pay what I've always paid, and I run my operation the way I've always run it. Vinny left the meeting frustrated and empty-handed. And here's what Bumpy didn't know. Frank Costello had told Vinny before the meeting, if Johnson doesn't agree to the new terms, we move to Phase 2. Make it clear he's not as protected as he thinks. Phase 2 meant violence. Targeted, strategic violence designed to make Bumpy reconsider his position. But Costello made a critical mistake. He didn't tell Lucky Luciano what he was planning. Because Luciano, despite being in Italy, still had informants. Still had people loyal to him personally rather than to whoever currently held power in New York. And one of those people, a soldier named Anthony Little Augie Carfano, got word to Luciano about Costello's plans. Luciano's response, sent through encrypted communications, was unambiguous. Don't touch Bumpy. The arrangement stands. But by the time that message reached New York, Costello had already set events in motion that couldn't be easily stopped. And that's how, 3 months later, 3 hitmen ended up on Lenox Avenue with orders to kill BumpyJohnson. November 13th, 1946, 2:47 a.m. The 28th Precinct. Interrogation Room 3. Detective Marcus Flynn, a 20-year NYPD veteran, sits across from one of the attackers, the one Illinois Gordon subdued. His name is Carlo Bianchi, 28 years old, born in Brooklyn to Sicilian immigrant parents. Carlo's face is a mess. Illinois had been thorough. Broken nose, split lip, swollen eye. But he's conscious and, more importantly, he's talking. I want a lawyer, Carlo says for the 3rd time. You'll get one, Flynn replies. But right now, I'm more interested in why a connected guy like you is trying to stab BumpyJohnson on a Harlem street corner. That's not your usual territory, Carlo. You're a Brooklyn boy. What brings you uptown? Carlo says nothing. Flynn slides a wallet across the table. Carlo's wallet, recovered at the scene. You're carrying ID for $187 in cash in this. He places a small card on the table. It's a business card for a restaurant in Little Italy. On the back, handwritten in Italian, Completare il lavoro. Complete the job. Whose handwriting is that, Carlo? I don't know what you're talking about. See, here's my problem. I've got an attempted murder. I've got 3 attackers, 2 of whom we caught. I've got 1 victim, Tommy Williams, who might not make it through the night. That's serious time you're looking at. But if you cooperate, tell me who sent you. Maybe we work something out. Carlo laughs, a bitter sound. You think I'm stupid? You think I'm going to rat on? He stops himself. On who? Frank Costello? Vito Genovese? Who sent you, Carlo? I want my lawyer. Flynn leans back, studying him. You know what's interesting? I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've interrogated hundreds of wise guys. And you know what I've learned? The smart ones lawyer up immediately. Don't say a word. Wait for their people to bail them out or make the problem disappear. He points at Carlo. But you're not doing that. You're scared. You're hurt. And you're starting to realize that whoever sent you on this job doesn't care if you get caught. They sent 3 of you to kill 1 man. That's sloppy. That's desperation. And desperate organizations don't protect their soldiers. They burn them. Carlo's jaw clenches. Flynn's hitting close to something. Let me tell you what's going to happen, Flynn continues. BumpyJohnson has connections. He's got lawyers, politicians, judges on his payroll. By noon today, he's going to know your name, where you're from, who you work for. And then he's going to make a decision. Does he let the legal system handle this, or does he handle it himself? He can't touch me in here. No, but you're not going to be in here forever. And when you get out, whether it's bail, trial, or 15 years from now, BumpyJohnson has a long memory. You try to kill him, Carlo. You think he forgets that. For the first time, real fear crosses Carlo's face. Flynn leans forward. But if you cooperate, if you tell me who sent you and why, I can make sure Bumpy knows you helped. I can make sure he understands you were just following orders, that you're not the real problem. Carlo stares at the table for a long moment. The interrogation room's fluorescent lights hum above them. Somewhere in the building, a phone rings. Finally, Carlo speaks. It was Costello's people. Vinnie Morrow set it up. Said Bumpy was being uncooperative about business arrangements. So we were supposed to send a message, scare him, hurt him, make him reconsider his position. And if that didn't work, Carlo swallows hard. Then we were supposed to kill him. Flynn writes this down. Why now? Why November? Because Costello's losing patience. He's got the other families breathing down his neck, saying he's weak for letting a black operator in Harlem dictate terms. He needed to show strength. By killing BumpyJohnson, that seems like starting a war. Maybe. But Costello figured if Bumpy was gone, he could install someone more cooperative. Someone who'd pay the tribute Costello wanted without the independence demands. Flynn nods slowly. This matches what his informants have been telling him. That tensions between the Italian families and BumpyJohnson's operation have been escalating. One more question, Carlo. Did Lucky Luciano know about this? Carlo looks confused. Luciano's in Italy. He's been deported. Why would he? Just answer the question. Did he know? I don't think so. Vinny said this was Costello's call. That we were handling New York business without bothering Charlie with details. And there it is. The revelation that will change everything. Frank Costello had ordered a hit on BumpyJohnson without Lucky Luciano's knowledge or approval. He'd violated the fundamental rule of organized crime. You don't make moves against protected operators without commission approval. Flynn stands. Sit tight, Carlo. We'll get you that lawyer. He leaves the interrogation room and immediately makes a phone call. Not to his captain, not to the district attorney, to Detective Frank Russo, the same cop on BumpyJohnson's payroll who'd helped with the KKK situation years earlier. Frank, it's Marcus. Tell Bumpy I've got information he needs to hear. And tell him it's about Costello. November 13th, 1946, 11:30 a.m. Naples, Italy. A villa overlooking the Mediterranean. Lucky Luciano sits at a breakfast table, reading a telegram that's just been delivered by courier. The message is coded, but Luciano's been receiving coded messages his entire criminal career. He can read between the lines. The telegram, decoded, reads, Bumpy hit last night. 3 attackers. 2 captured. Source, Costello's people. Bumpy survived. Luciano reads it 3 times. Then he sets it down, his expression unreadable. Meyer Lansky, who's visiting from the United States, sits across from him. Bad news. Frank tried to kill BumpyJohnson. Lansky goes still. Without asking you. Apparently. That's incredibly stupid. That's Frank thinking he's the boss now. Luciano stands, pacing the terrace. He thinks because I'm over here, because I can't physically be in New York managing operations, that he can make executive decisions. That he can violate agreements I personally brokered. What are you going to do? Luciano thinks for a long moment. The morning sun reflects off the Mediterranean, beautiful and indifferent to the criminal politics being discussed. I'm going to remind everyone, Frank included, that distance doesn't equal powerlessness. That I'm still running this organization. And I'm going to make sure BumpyJohnson knows this hit didn't come from me. Ow! By sending someone Frank can't ignore. Someone whose presence in New York will make it clear who actually calls the shots. Lansky understands immediately. You're going to risk coming back? Charlie, if immigration catches you, I'm not coming back. But I'm sending people who speak for me. And I'm sending a message to Frank that if he ever makes a move like this again without my approval, he won't like the consequences. Within hours, Luciano has sent multiple telegrams. To his most loyal captains in New York. To members of the commission who still respect his authority. To mediators who can communicate with both the Italian families and with BumpyJohnson. The message is consistent. The hit on BumpyJohnson was unauthorized. Frank Costello exceeded his authority. The arrangement with BumpyJohnson stands as originally negotiated. But here's what makes this situation so dangerous. Frank Costello has already committed to a course of action. He's already sent hitmen. He's already declared, through his actions if not his words, that he's willing to challenge Luciano's agreements. Backing down now would make him look weak. But continuing forward means open conflict with Luciano, which could tear the entire organization apart. And caught in the middle of this power struggle is BumpyJohnson, who's just survived an assassination attempt and is now deciding how to respond. November 14th, 1946. The Rhythm Club. BumpyJohnson sits at the head of a table with his top advisors. Tommy Williams is still in the hospital, stable, but facing weeks of recovery. The third attacker was never caught. But Carlo Bianchi's confession has changed everything. So Costello sent them, Illinois Gordon says, without Luciano's approval. That's a violation of every rule in the book. It is Bumpy agrees, which gives us leverage. But leverage is only useful if we use it correctly. Eddie Schoolboy Martin speaks up. We've got three options as I see it. 1. We retaliate directly. Hit Costello's people, send our own message. 2. We appeal to the commission, ask them to intervene and discipline Costello for violating agreements. 3. We wait for Luciano to handle it from Italy. Option 1 starts a war we can't win. Nat Pettigrew points out. Costello's got the Genovese family, alliances with the Gambinos and Lucchese's. We're powerful in Harlem, but we're not equipped to fight a multi-family conflict. Option 2 makes us look weak, Junie Bird adds. Makes it seem like we need the commission's permission to defend ourselves. Option 3 assumes Luciano still has enough power to reign in Costello, Illinois says. And I'm not sure that's true anymore. Luciano's in Italy. Out of sight, out of mind for a lot of these guys. Bumpy listens to all of this, his fingers steepled, thinking, "You're all right," he finally says. "All three options have problems. So we're going to do something different. We're going to make Costello's move backfire so spectacularly that it discredits him in front of the entire commission." "Ow," Eddie asks. Bumpy smiles, a cold expression that doesn't reach his eyes. By not retaliating, by continuing business as usual, by paying our regular tribute, maintaining order in Harlem, and acting like nothing happened. Everyone stares at him. "Boss," Junie says carefully, "someone tried to kill you. If we don't respond, people will think. People will think exactly what I want them to think, that I'm smart enough to recognize a trap when I see one." Costello wanted me to retaliate. He wanted me to start a war. Because in a war between Harlem and the families, even if we win some battles, he can argue that I'm unstable, dangerous, bad for business. He can use my response to justify tighter control or outright takeover. Bumpy stands, pacing like Luciano had done thousands of miles away. But if I don't retaliate, if I continue operating peacefully and profitably, then what's Costello's argument? That I'm too cooperative? That I'm too profitable? The other families won't support him. They'll see that he tried to fix something that wasn't broken, and in doing so, he violated agreements and created unnecessary risk. Illinois nods slowly. And Luciano? Luciano's already sent word through channels that the hit was unauthorized. I received confirmation this morning. He's making it clear to the commission that Costello exceeded his authority. So we let them fight it out amongst themselves, Eddie says, understanding dawning. Exactly. We stay neutral. We keep operating. We let the Italian families see that the real threat to stability isn't BumpyJohnson. It's Frank Costello's ambition. Nat leans back in his chair. That's actually brilliant, but it requires incredible restraint. We've got guys who are angry, who want blood for Tommy Williams. I know, which is why I'm addressing everyone personally, making it clear that this is strategic, not cowardice, that we're playing a longer game. And if Costello sends more hitmen, Junie asks, he won't, because now everyone knows he did it without approval. If he tries again, it's open defiance of Luciano and the commission. That's suicide. Bumpy returns to his seat. Gentlemen, we just survived an assassination attempt that could have ended this organization. But because of how we're handling it, we're actually going to come out stronger. Costello's going to be discredited. Luciano's going to owe us for not making this into a war. And the other families are going to see that we're professional, disciplined, and not a threat to the larger structure. He looks at each man. That's how you turn attack into an advantage. Not with violence, with strategy. December 1946. Location undisclosed, but according to reports, somewhere in upstate New York. The commission meets, the governing body of organized crime families. 5 bosses, their underbosses, and selected advisors. Frank Costello represents the Luciano/Genovese family. Vito Genovese is also present, just returned from Italy where he'd been hiding from murder charges. Also present, representatives from the Gambino, Lucchese, Bonanno, and Colombo families. And, unexpectedly, Meyer Lansky, representing Lucky Luciano's interest despite not being a family boss himself. The topic, the unauthorized hit on BumpyJohnson and what it means for organizational stability. According to later accounts from participants, the meeting was tense. Lansky opened by reading a statement from Luciano. The agreement with Ellsworth Johnson was personally negotiated and approved by me. It has generated consistent profits, maintained peace in Harlem, and avoided federal attention. Any changes to this arrangement require my approval and commission consent. Neither were sought before the recent attack. Costello tried to defend his position. Johnson's been getting too independent, too powerful. Other families have been asking why we let him operate with such favorable terms. Carlo Gambino, the shrewd and calculating boss of his family, responded, "And your solution was to kill him? Without discussing it with anyone? Frank, that's not leadership. That's impulsiveness." "I was handling a business problem," Costello insisted. "You were exceeding your authority," Vito Genovese said. And this was significant because Genovese and Costello were supposedly allies. "You made a move that could have started a war, brought federal heat, and violated an agreement that Charlie personally guaranteed." The commission voted. The decision was clear. Costello would issue a formal apology to BumpyJohnson. The original tribute arrangement would remain unchanged. Any future modifications would require commission approval. It was a public rebuke, humiliating for Costello, who'd positioned himself as Luciano's successor. And it made something very clear to everyone in organized crime. Lucky Luciano might be in Italy, but he was still calling the shots. Distance hadn't diminished his power. It had just changed how he exercised it. January 1947. The Rhythm Club. Frank Costello arrives with 2 bodyguards. He's requested a meeting with BumpyJohnson, a meeting that, 2 months earlier, would have been unthinkable. Bumpy receives him cordially. They sit across from each other, 2 powerful men who nearly went to war. "The commission decided in your favor," Costello says. No preamble, no small talk. They decided in favor of maintaining profitable agreements. Bumpy corrects gently. "This was never personal, Frank. It felt personal when my reputation took a hit. Your reputation took a hit because you made an unauthorized move, not because of anything I did." Costello lights a cigarette, his hand steady but his jaw tight. "Underestimated you. Thought because you were black, because you operated in Harlem, that you were just another operator we could squeeze. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. How did you know not to retaliate? Most men would have hit back, started a war." Bumpy considers the question. "Because I've spent 30 years studying power. Real power isn't about being the strongest or the most violent. It's about understanding the rules of the game and knowing when breaking them serves you and when it destroys you. You broke the rules by moving against me without approval. I would have broken them by starting a war without exhausting peaceful options. One of us played it smart. One didn't." Costello stands, extending his hand. The tribute arrangement stands. "No changes. You have the commission's word." Bumpy shakes his hand. "I appreciate the clarification." After Costello leaves, Illinois Gordon approaches Bumpy. "You trust him?" "Not even a little bit. But I trust that he's learned his lesson. He knows now that I'm not an easy target, that I have powerful allies, and that moving against me costs more than it benefits." That's better than trust. That's respect built on fear and calculation. And Luciano? Luciano proved he's still the smartest guy in the room, even from 5,000 miles away. He protected his agreement, disciplined his subordinate, and reminded everyone who actually runs things. We're aligned with the right people, Illinois. That's what matters. Tommy Williams recovered from his injuries and returned to work in March 1947. Carlo Bianchi served 3 years for assault and was released on parole in 1950. He left New York immediately and never returned. The third attacker, the one who got away, was never identified. Some say he left the country. Some say Costello's people eliminated him to tie up loose ends. The truth was never determined. Frank Costello continued running the Genovese family until 1957, when he was shot in the head in an assassination attempt by Vito Genovese. He survived, but retired from active criminal leadership, and BumpyJohnson continued controlling Harlem until his death in 1968, having survived countless threats, attacks, and political machinations through intelligence, strategy, and the kind of discipline that separates legends from casualties. The lesson of November 1946 was clear. In the criminal underworld, the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a knife. It's knowing when not to use them.